Hi Nikita, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good too, thank you. So can you tell us something about yourself?
Yes. Hi, I'm Nikita Vishnani, and I have 5.8 years of experience in testing, which is like automation, API testing, and manual. Currently, I have around like 2 years in Selenium and API. For UI testing, like I'm using Selenium in the current project, and for API testing, we are using Postman. But I also have experience with like using SOAP UI and Karate framework. And currently, I'm working in an agile project,
Hmm,
and so the day to daily activities are like basically we have a sprint of around 7 days,
hmm,
wherein we get user stories depending upon the uh, like backlog refinement. We get the user stories, we analyze them, we see if it can be automated or no,
hmm.
and then we build the test cases and the test scripts of whatever can be automated, and then we execution. Then if we have any, and then we have the test ends.
Okay. Okay, so can you tell me something about your automation framework and what is your contribution in that framework?
Okay. So uh,
So can you tell us something about the automation framework and what is
yeah.
your contribution? Hmm.
Okay. We are using the BDD framework, which is Cucumber. So we have feature files in that. Then we have step definition. So whatever user stories we get, accordingly, like we have the tags, and behind like each like line in the feature file, we have a step definition file where we have the different methods, and then we have a different like file where we actually store the XPaths. And like for data, like the test data, we are using JSON. And we also have a base class which has all the like main functionalities like login, which we can reuse. So major contribution is like I'm involved in the test scripts writing, like as and when we have bandwidth, so I'm assigned the user stories, and based on that, like I do the automation.
Hmm. So you have overall 4 plus 5 plus years of experience, right? So
Yes.
your role and responsibility is not constrained to just adding test scripts to the automation, right? You should be doing, you should be exceeding a, a more than what the 2 plus or 3
Uh,
plus years of experience people should do,
yeah,
right?
actually, I have only 2 years of
Okay,
experience
you
in
have 2 years
Selenium.
in
Y-
Selenium. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So whenever this question is asked to you, you can tell might be you might would have created some utility which is beneficial for other people also. Maybe any utility. Then you might also add that you might would have guided team, for example, in how to write code in an extraordinary manner. Maybe you would have integrated Sonalint in the code
Okay.
framework, right? So those kind of integration things with CI/CD integration thing you would have initiated, right? So all
Okay.
those. So how do you trigger your automation?
So basically, currently we don't have a CI/CD integration. Like we just run it through like normal, like we build and configure the project, and then we run that.
Hmm.
And the report, it is generated like in PDF format through Cucumber only. Like we
Okay.
have add, yeah.
Okay. So in a real-time interview, don't tell this answer that you don't have CI/CD integration. Learn about CI/CD tools like
Okay.
Jenkins is there, Azure DevOps is there,
Jenkins.
how pipelines are
Okay.
getting created. What is the significance? What is the mechanism? I'm not telling you to learn Groovy scripting to create those
Okay.
pipelines, but have a fair idea that 60-70% of idea you have, you can tell in an interview, okay, this is how it is going on. So that they will come to know, okay, as per the market standards, she's aware about all those things, right? Okay, so
Okay.
CI/CD Jenkins is one of the thing that you will have to, touch base after this interview. Okay.
Okay.
Now, what exception will rest assured throw when we pass the wrong content type? So let's say you are doing API
Uh,
automation, right? You're using REST.
Rest assured,
Yeah.
actually, I've not used. Like, I just
Okay.
have experience with
Mm-hmm.
Postman and Karate
Postman you have.
framework.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
fine. So let this be an open question for the people who are watching this video. What exception
Okay.
will rest assured throw when we pass the wrong content type? Okay, now coming to Postman. So you are aware about Postman. Mm. So what is collection in Postman?
Okay, so basically it's like a set of requests, we can say, set of similar requests. So whenever we want to actually test the functionality,
Mm,
we receive the collection from the developer and we just import it in the Postman. So it's just like a group of similar requests, which
mm.
can be like get, post, and then based on the functionality, like we'll carry on the further testing.
Okay. Which are the different types of authentication that you are doing in Postman?
So we have OAuth 1, OAuth 2, then we have no authentication, no auth, um, basic authentication. Yeah, like
Mhm.
I'm aware about these ones.
Right, right. So whenever they ask you about, authorization methods, so one is API key, one is OAuth 1.0 and 2.0, one is basic authentication, one is digest authentication, one is bearer token, one is using
Where to?
AWS signature, one is using Hawk authentication, NTLM authentication, right? So these all are types of methods. Those are supported by Postman.
Post.
Okay. Now, what is payload in Postman?
Yeah. So basically, in the post request, we have the body, and in the body, like we have the payload, like where we can make some changes in that, and basis of that, like we can do the testing, and we will see if the response it is coming correctly or not, based on the changes that we have made in the payload in the body.
Hmm. So you mean to say it contains the data that you will send to the client.
Yes.
You are sure, right?
Yeah.
See, payload is actually the body of your request and the response message, right? Now, whenever you are
Right.
making an API request, so payload will actually contain the data that you will send to the server, right? So
Oh
you
yeah.
can send and receive payload in various formats. So again, those formats you were covering, JSON, XML format. So those formats are fine, but it contains the data that you will be sending to the server. Okay.
So okay.
Yeah. Now, what are the different scopes of environment variable in Postman?
Uh, Scopes. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. Read and write. I'm aware about.
Okay.
Like yeah.
Are you aware about local environment, local scope or global scope?
Yeah. Like okay. Yeah. Local and global. I'm
Mm.
aware about the like variables. Like we can say, suppose if I want, like suppose we have the environment variables, and I have put something in the environment variables,
Mm.
and that I can use globally, like across all the requests. And if I'm putting something in the request level, so that will be like local.
Mm. Okay, fine. So let me share my screen. I'm using Postman tool, right? And
Okay.
I'm trying to hit an API. I'm trying to test
Oh,
this particular API, but it is giving
oh.
me 404 as the, in the response, I'm getting 404 not found
Mm-hmm.
status, right? And it is
Okay.
telling the page you are looking for does not exist. So what
Okay.
can be the reason behind this? How you will troubleshoot? Let's say you have created some API and on one day it
Mm-hmm.
was running fine, but on another day you're getting this kind of error. So how will you troubleshoot this error?
Okay, the page we're looking for doesn't exist. So basically, we get 404 when that test data is not existing.
Hmm.
Means here maybe the title has changed, or it because I can see it's related to the title. So maybe the title has changed, and that is the reason we are getting
Which
that
title?
is not
Yeah, which title you are telling?
the page. The page title.
The page title.
Yeah.
Hmm. Okay, so it is nothing but the documents title or name, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, it's an API in which we are getting the data of the number of users those are there, right? But now I'm getting this error.
So means basically like the title has changed and that is the reason
Right,
like
right. So you can see maybe some typo mistake I would have done, and that's why it's giving me an error. So whenever you get such kind of errors, then you can recheck from the Swagger document, right? See, now it is
yes.
coming 200. What I did
Yes.
mistake in typo was that I had
Mm-hmm.
some
You
dash.
are.
Hmm, yeah. So this error was
Yeah.
coming,
Okay.
right? So So you can see 404 not found. Is the requested resource could not be found, right? So it's not present there because this was
Yes.
incorrect. Okay. Now what would
Yeah,
happen?
virtual.
Yeah. So this is get method as per the
Mm-hmm.
documentation that I have got. What would happen if I replace this get to post? What would happen? Let's say if
Uh,
yeah. So you have understood the question, right? It's a get.
yes, yes.
Yeah. Now if I replace this with post and if I click on send button, then what would happen?
So basically that uh it won't work as expected because it's a get request, and when we are sending get means we have to actually retrieve the data, and post means we actually want a body like where we are going to post the data. So like since it's get and now we are because at times it happens like while execution also it gets changed to post, so it won't work in the desired way.
Okay. So what would be the output? It will not work because definitely the method we have changed. So what would be the
Yes.
output in this case?
Mm, mm, I think so 400 or 404 only.
Right.
Yeah.
404 not found, right? Status 404. Okay. Right. Okay. Now, every time this API hits and the body, the response, the status code that I get, I want to validate it. So how will you validate all these things in Postman?
Uh, Validate the things in Postman. Okay.
Mhm. So for
So
example,
actually,
for one, yeah, just let me explain you the question. See,
okay.
when you will hit this particular request, right? So you will get some first name, last name. So you will be validating whether you have got proper
Mm-hmm.
ID
Got
based
it.
yeah
Yes.
or response or not, status is
Okay.
coming 200 or not,
Hmm.
right? So how will you
Okay.
validate such things? Every time you might not
Uh,
be present.
yes.
Hmm.
Right, right. So I like currently like what we are doing is we are validating this. Suppose this data is getting means it is also available in some in like other we can say application, so that we are using the same data from that application and comparing with a response. Like that is one way. And or if we have some other document which is there, we can validate it through that also.
So you are doing it manual validation.
Yes, like that
Why
I
don't
am
you
aware, like
Yeah. Why don't you
tests.
use test? Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, I'm aware.
Hardware,
Actually,
right?
yeah,
Mm,
I'm aware about it, but I've
right.
not yet like tried using that.
Okay. So you can actually, create test here.
Okay.
And you can write the test in the form of, you can validate whether the body contains so and so content, whether the status is
Okay.
coming 200 or not. So those things you can
Okay.
validate via tests. This is similar to what we
Okay.
have assertions in Selenium script,
Okay.
automation scripts,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's how you can do. Okay.
Okay.
Now, okay. Now let's say you are working in some department of mm, finance department. You have created your own collection, right? Now there is one more your team member who is working in the engineering department, and he needs the access of your collection. So how will you share your collection with him?
So we like if we are working in the same workspace, so that is one way. Or if I want to share the collection, so in the left hand side there is an option. We can like download the collection and share it also.
Mhm.
Or yeah.
Also, you can share the collection with him, and then he can import in his machine,
Yes.
right? So those things also
Yes.
can be done.
Okay.
Okay. What is the difference between post and put?
Okay. So post means we are actually like if we want to post, like we have to send something, so like we will do post. Put is if we want to make some modification, then like we use put for that. Like we
Hmm.
have to edit something, like a small modification, then like we use put.
So you mean to say post is for creating a new resource, right? Now
Resource, yeah.
let's say if I hit that post request 10 times, right? Then every
Okay.
time a new resource will be created.
Mm, mm, means depends on the test data actually. Like if we are like with the same test data, no. With different test data, yes.
Are you sure?
Means depends actually. Like if that API is designed in that way, like with the same test data, it will give some error.
Hmm.
So basis of that.
Okay, okay. So let this be an open question for the people who are watching this video. What is the difference between post and put, and what would happen if you hit the same post request, let's say 10 times in concurrent manner? Then what would happen?
Okay.
Right? Okay, now let's open your resume. Mhm. So in your resume, you have mentioned that you will prioritize the test cases in order to achieve the maximum test coverage, right? So how will you uh, validate the test coverage? How do you find that test coverage is 60%? How do you come to know that it is 60%, 50%?
So test coverage means like we have the requirement traceability matrix, and on basis of that, like we put the test cases against the requirements, and on basis of that, like we can say how many test cases are covered against the requirements.
So can you tell me in detail what is traceability matrix and what is the template of the traceability matrix? How you have created that matrix
Uh,
so that you are
okay.
coming to know about all those test scenarios are covered or not?
Okay, so basically, suppose I have 5 requirements.
Hmm.
So against the 5 requirements, like against one requirement, suppose 2, 3 test cases are there. So
Hmm.
I will just jot down against each requirement, these many test cases are there, and then we will just take a total. Like, okay, each requirement is covered, and if suppose all the requirements are covered, so we can say it's 100% coverage. But sometimes it's like because of some limitation of the application or some test data, it's not possible to cover all the requirements. So we can just mention in the query log, or like the we can just put it in a mail that that requirement cannot be covered, and like on basis of that we can say like there won't be 100% coverage.
Hmm. Now consider a scenario you have. So here you are correlating scenario and test cases. So those are going hand to hand. But it might happen that some test case might be repeated for some other scenario also. Let's say you have
Okay.
some requirements and in that you have got some integration test scenario. So that will be covered for two requirements, right?
Yes.
Then how will you deal with those tests? Would you consider them as one or would you consider them as two?
One test case only.
But
Means if it is
your
repeat,
calculation, yeah.
no, we will consider it as one only. Means, and on basis of that we will do the calculation. Like we will maybe put the requirements together and then like map that test case against the requirements, or maybe we can make some different we can like combine two requirements and make a test case.
Hmm. Can combine the requirements and make a test case. Okay. And how will you find the automation coverage?
Okay, so automation, like we have in sprint
Hmm.
automation.
Hmm.
We will try to automate the test cases, like which are in like login or something like that, like which is the basic functionality. Once that is covered, so then we can move on to the like functionality which is there after that. So that means we don't have any blockers in the
Hmm.
starting. So basis on that we can decide the coverage.
Hmm. So coverage, or you are telling about estimation.
Okay, coverage, I can give one more example.
Hmm.
Suppose I have 21 states, so it's not possible that I will cover all the 21 states.
Hmm.
So then so I'll have to like decide like how many states I can actually cover. So on basis of that also the coverage will be decided.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Cha cha.
Okay, fine. Now let's say if any, hello Nikita, your video is off. Hello.
Uh,
Yeah, please continue.
Yeah, so I was telling like for coverage, so if there are many parameters to consider, so like basis on the like discussion with the client, so we can decide like actually how many states or how many parameters we actually want to cover, because it won't be possible like in a short amount of time to cover everything.
Correct. Okay. So whenever the questions are asked to you about estimation in a real-time interview, so you have to tell about the sizing of the user story. So first you will size the user story based on the t-shirt sizing or some sizing concept you can take, whether it is small, it is large, it is extra large. Based on that, you will put your effort and time. Maybe for one person, it might take 6 days. For two-person, it might take 3 days. So that's how you will have to tell. Again, in
Okay.
automation, first you will have to be ready with the test cases. Then you will have to be ready with the eligibility of those test cases for automation. Might be you might be having 30 test cases. Out of 30 test cases, you have 20 test cases which can be automated, which are feasible for automation. 10 are not feasible for automation, or you will need some kind of POC or some R&D. So first for
Okay.
20, you will give the estimation, right? So that's how you
Okay.
can tell. Okay, now I'm sharing my screen. You have done
Hmm.
ISTQB certification, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now you have to find the statement coverage of this particular code, and there are four options given: A, B, C, D. So what would be the statement coverage of this particular code?
Four.
How come?
So actually, like if we want 100% coverage, so we'll have to take X, Y, and even sorry, it will be three.
Three,
Three.
right? So the answer
Yes, yeah, it
is
will be three.
C,
Yeah,
statement
yeah,
coverage. And there is a
right.
difference between branch coverage and statement coverage. So what is statement coverage?
Uh,
How did you
like
how did you find the
yeah.
answer? Hmm.
So I just like suppose display X, I consider it as one statement, and
Hmm.
Y and Z. So means we'll have to cover all the scenarios.
Hmm.
So that is why I took like I got the answer as three.
Hmm. So so flow, you will take the all the flows of the
Yes.
code of the program should get covered. Okay. Now consider the same program and you need to find branch decision coverage.
Mm, no, actually, I'm not aware about this branch
Hmm.
decision
Okay.
coverage.
Okay, fine. So after this interview, you can quickly visit these concepts of statement coverage, branch, and decision coverage. Right?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, Nikita, I'm done with the interview. Do you have any questions for me?
No, I'm good.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much and wish you all the
Thank
best for your
you.
career. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.